Bitlayer's mission or vision is trying to provide this programmable, trustless environment, building this trust minimized bridge with BVM2 together with our Bitcoin-friendly stock prover to verify all kinds of transactions happening on our layer 2, eventually settle back to Bitcoin L1.
None of the information in this podcast constitutes investment advice or an offer, recommendation, or solicitation by WAGMI Ventures or any of its affiliates to buy or sell any securities. Hey WAGMI family, Benga here with another WAGMI Ventures podcast episode. Today we'll be chatting with a key player in the Bitcoin L2 space, Charlie Hu. Charlie is CEO and co-founder of Bitlayer, a layer 2 network designed to support smart contracts and dApps within the Bitcoin ecosystem. Bitlayer is also the first major project leveraging the BitVM computational engine. For anyone who is new, this is the WAGMI Ventures podcast where we do snapshots with interesting builders and founders across crypto and AI. Check out wagmiventures.io to learn more about the syndicate behind the podcast. Hey dude, it's been a while. Welcome to the show and thanks for making the time.
Thank you for having me. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Yeah, 100%. I'd like to start with you sharing your long entrepreneurial journey in crypto. You've made significant contributions to Polkadot and Polygon, for example, before founding Bitlayer. Talk to us about that journey.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Yeah, for the people who don't know me, just brief intro. My name is Charlie. Been in this place more or less from 2015, so it's almost 10 years now. It's because we're getting close to 2025. Yeah, I was early involved with Ethereum when I was in Europe. 2017, I invested in Polkadot for a first round and actually just been deep dive on Polkadot ecosystem building, being the Web3 Foundation's interpreter during most of the Asia tour events, together with incubating and helping quite a lot of the Polkadot ecosystem projects. That was an interesting journey to learn about DevRel and also bring the bridge between the West and East communities throughout the developers and also all kinds of the ecosystem toolings. DeFi summer came, I get a chance to deep dive on a lot of DeFi blue chip protocols. And 2021, I was fortunate to join Polygon. It was one of the fastest growing Ethereum L2s that bridged over billions of dollars of TVL from Ethereum L1, and a lot of the gaming and the metaverse application and consumer facing applications we were interfacing. I was leading the APAC region ecosystem building, brought a lot of the application projects to the Polygon ecosystem. So that was a year which was very exciting. I personally learned a lot how to build an ecosystem, all kinds of builders. We built quite a lot of interesting friendship and also trying to arrow. We see certain narrative had a crazy rally and a certain narrative died down after we entered 2022, right? And my journey with Bitcoin was really because of ordinals. As you can tell, I was not necessarily like a Bitcoin maxi or laser eyes OG. I was mostly involved with all the Ethereum or smart contract infrastructure, right? Bitcoin has been in the space for over 14 years now. But the ordinals really bring this builder culture back. So early 2023, when my friends showed me this native NFT assets created on Bitcoin, of course, I heard about BIP 430, like the Taproot asset operation already. And we never really get serious until like this ordinals protocol, which was a very clean, simple design and focus on this kind of Bitcoin native kind of first principle. It gets me excited. So I was a heavy active educator about the ordinals protocol later on BRC20, especially in the Asia community. I was on Twitter space pretty much 4 or 5 times a day. Really get to know a lot of the Bitcoin builders, or at least like the ordinals builders who joined the whole Bitcoin journey together with other people in the same time. The reason I get to know all the other Bitcoin layers and also eventually get inspired to wants to start Bitlayer was because of the Token 2049 in Singapore, the Ordinal Summit that happens in last September. So September 12th, I was invited to be the speaker. We shared about the journey of Ordinals in the community as a community builder, as an educator, get a chance to really talk to Domo and Casey. For the people who don't know, Casey was the creator of Ordinals protocol, and Domo was the inventor and creator of BRC20 protocol, which was basically the key two builders in the Ordinal space. They were debating about the whole on-chain UTXO garbage, right? We get created on the Bitcoin network every day. And there was a lot of debates because of the Bitcoin network layer 1. What's the future should look like, right? Should we keep minting all these assets on Bitcoin layer 1? And due to the fact that Bitcoin layer 1, there's no real like burn on function for all the UTXOs, right? So it gets us to think about it. We should scale Bitcoin, bring this programmability and verification features to allow all kinds of use cases to center around Bitcoin, but not necessarily have to be all in Bitcoin layer one. So that was the pivotal moment for me to start doing deep dive research about all the scaling solutions. So after last year, September, I started looking at RGB++, Nostra, and later on, BitVM white paper came out. We got excited to see this native way of scale Bitcoin, verify transaction on Bitcoin L1 without a soft fork. And so that was the moment we started actually deep dive. We started as a research group together with my co-founder, Kevin. We established the BitVM Asia community. We translated quite a lot of articles. We started sharing about what is BitVM, what is layer one verification means for Bitcoin ecosystem. That was also the time that ordinals start really have a crazy rally. Audi get listed on Binance. A lot of the interesting ordinals narrative having a huge momentum in terms of community activities, in terms of price rally, and obviously some good projects, including Babylon and a few others like that we are working with. They started gaining momentum. So that we decided to start Bitlayer full-time late November last year. It's been an amazing journey, right? Now it's November. So we are getting close to our 1 year anniversary of Bitlayer. In the last more than 11 months, we hit quite a lot of interesting milestones. We launched our V1 mainnet. We launched our V1 white paper. We became number one on TVR on DeFi Llama among all the Bitcoin sidechain and layer twos. Over 260 projects on the ecosystem already deploy our mainnet with all-time high 250,000 transactions per day. Altogether, we have over 15 million transactions on our network already. And we raised 5 million on the seed round, 20 million on the Series A. Great to have WAGMI Ventures support us. Thanks a lot. And a lot of ecosystem partners, including recently, we are one of the first Bitcoin L2 featured on Chainlink CCIP. Great to work with Chainlink. And now working towards a few other really great announcements with Franklin Templeton and a few others, like very important ecosystem partners. So Bitlayer's mission, our vision, is trying to provide this programmable, trustless environment, building this trust minimized bridge with BVM2, together with our Bitcoin-friendly stock prover to verify all kinds of transactions happening on our layer 2, but eventually settle back to Bitcoin L1. And the key difference compared to us and other chains or other approaches, we want to have high level of, together with this low cost, but a high level of Bitcoin security through this Bitcoin friendly stock approach. So this is something we believe can have the high level of Bitcoin security as same as Bitcoin L1, but without sacrificing the economic side, because we notice and we've been doing research, other type of ZK prover will be very high on the file size. It's going to be very high cost to settle on Bitcoin L1. In our approach, will be 10 times smaller in terms of file size. And that's actually our technical advantages and how Bitlayer's approach will take. I will stop here, just talk about other things along the ways.
Yeah, thank you for that, Charlie. You definitely jumped into a number of pieces of what we're going to talk about through our conversation today. But definitely been an OG and someone who's been in the Bitcoin space for a while, and your journey through Polkadot, Polygon, and then working on Bitlayer. So just in your own words, really quickly, talk to us about Bitlayer and high level, and then talk to us about where you see your key value props. I know you mentioned high level of programmability and composability, especially with the paradigm of BitVM. So would be good to also hear how you would define that and what value it brings to the BTC-Fi space.
Yeah, sure. I think the key first principle things we need people know who are listening is Bitcoin in the past never had native layer 2s. And on the things we know that in Ethereum, there's a lot of layer 2s already there. Roll-up model is that kind of the community consensus, right? How the future of high throughput, lower gas fee, programmable environment should look like. Ethereum already battle tests on a lot of things. A lot of the blue chip DeFi protocols that are launched on the DeFi summer in 2020 are now deployed actively on Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism, or many other Ethereum L2s. Whereas Bitcoin architect-wise is very different. Bitcoin L1 has no smart contract. It's a UTXO cash system. And we all know Bitcoin is the highest level of security and most decentralized network. And it's proof of work. So it's quite different. There's no native Bitcoin yield, right? So that's another topic we also want to provide an architect to look at what is the Bitcoin yield, right, look like. And so this is very interesting and very new territory, which hasn't really been properly discovered or established in the Web3 space. So Bitlayer trying to do two things. One, the layer one verification. So without that, it's just a sidechain, meaning we don't actually contribute the Bitcoin security budget. In other words, the Bitcoin sidechain, no matter how big the Bitcoin sidechain grow, there's no fees or security budget contributing back to Bitcoin layer one, right? There's no fees or rewards. We contribute back to miners. So if all the transactions, all the on-chain activities eventually happening on Bitcoin sidechains, not on Bitcoin L1 anymore, there's no additional fees miners can earn. And obviously, we have every 4 years of this halving, and the hash power is getting higher and higher, and the cost is still very high. It's pretty difficult for miners to make economically business on that. We heard from the struggle from Marathon, Foundry, and a few other mining companies. They need to find their ways to lower down the electricity cost and also to keep the hash rate high. Otherwise, they're actually not making profits. So I believe the future of Bitcoin with every 4 years having the halving on the block rewards, the on-chain transaction fees will be very important to make a sustainable future of Bitcoin. So that's the vision, right? We want to build a native layer 2. So the transactions, the state transition happening on our layer 2 eventually can settle and are verified on Bitcoin L1. And in that case, we are contributing the fees back to Bitcoin and back to the miners. So that's the first part, right? So let me give you a few data to also make it more even vivid. In Q2 this year, Bitcoin L1 had altogether 80 Bitcoins altogether as gas fees. Q3 was only 10 Bitcoin. So this is data we got from official Bitmain company. Bitmain, I think a lot of people know, it's one of the biggest miner company in the Bitcoin space in the world. So they realized a lot of the Bitcoin sidechains actually basically stealing the transactions, right? It's not necessarily good for them. And that's also the consensus. In order to maintain the high security level and the decentralization level of Bitcoin, we need to have native layer 2s with this layer 1 verification, not just a bunch of sidechains. This is something we are contributing back to Bitcoin community. So that's the key number one principle. Secondly, sidechains, the security is managed by its own validator sets. Without a Bitcoin settlement, a Bitcoin finality, it's fundamentally different compared to the security assumptions, right? We all trust Bitcoin. We all believe Bitcoin security is the highest level. So any transaction verification settled on Bitcoin, and that's something we can trust, right? So this is the trust assumption I think we can easily agree upon. But if it's just a sidechain, and then no matter it's 21, 100, or a couple of hundred kind of validator sets, it's still a monolithic standalone chains, no matter it's EVM or other VM compatible. The security level is different, right? So that we have this diagram and as chart in our deck, we mentioned the future of Bitcoin ecosystem should be Bitcoin finality with layer 1 verification, trust minimized bridge, and the data availability on Bitcoin layer 1 or Bitcoin aligned DA layer. So that's the key first principles Bitlayers trying to build in terms of how we want to roll out our architect. So yeah, this is the key part, right? When we build Bitcoin ecosystem, this is something very important. There's a lot of other kind of different types of Bitcoin projects coming along the ways, but we believe we have been talking very closely to Bitcoin Magazine, who is our investor as well. These are the kind of very important principle. Another one I forgot to mention, which is we charge wrapped Bitcoin as gas fee, whereas many other projects may use their own governance token for gas fees. We believe in order to stay native Bitcoin native and also native Bitcoin L2s, this is also another very important things on that. So yeah, that's how we are rolling out our architect. We are getting close to launch our V2 very closely, which we will have this Bitcoin layer 1 verification verifier feature together with our trust minimized bridge BitVM2 approach.
Hey everybody, quick thing here. We're excited to announce WAGMI Advisory, your home for all things fundraising, hiring, and partnerships. This is all about supercharging your project with the WAGMI network, consisting of over 20,000 executives, investors, and builders in crypto, all ready to come alongside your project to help it succeed. Get in touch at team@wagmiventures.io to learn more and figure out if WAGMI Advisory is the right fit for your project. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, this is all really fascinating, and I feel like you're one of the larger players that directly impact Bitcoin's adoption and how DeFi grows using Bitcoin. One of the key pieces, though, is you talk about like Bitlayer bridging Bitcoin's L1 to L2 natively, easing on-chain transaction for broader use. There is concern generally about bridging security, the hacks, and that sort of a thing. How is Bitlayer solving for this, and how is Bitlayer potentially safer than other options out there?
Good question. So I know being working with multiple ecosystem, especially in Polygon, when I was working there, I witnessed a few very major nine figures unfortunate hacks. Some of them I can name names, just part of history now, like Poly Network, for example. It get hacked by hackers with altogether almost 600 million. So it was very sad, right? And some of them are due to multi-sig hacks, like the multi-chain, another one. And some of the eventually the founder actually hold the entire multi-sig. So that was the problems. So we believe the future of high security, like trust minimized bridge should be not multi-sig, but the trust assumption needs to be minimized to one out of n. So the approach we're building on with BVM2 is through this, we build this randomized signer on this like BVM federation. And as long as one signer in this bridging system is honest, we can allow this bridging and asset bridging be secure. Whereas the current status quo is we rely on the multi-sig approach, right? Multi-sig has to depend on majority of the signers are honest. Otherwise, the bridging is not secure. If the majority of the signers are malicious, and then user funds is not safe. So this is the key approach we're taking. I'm building this trust minimized bridge. We're being tested out with multiple security auditing firms, and very excited to get it launched soon. I think this is the key important piece of infrastructure, right, for a lot of Bitcoin native users, Bitcoin OGs, to eventually explore all this programmability around the Bitcoin layer 2s, right? All kinds of Bitcoin DeFi use cases, which they can't really do that in Bitcoin L1. They can experience that in Bitcoin L2. But without this trust minimized bridge or a secure function, it's going to be still very trust dependent for bridging, right? And that will be the hurdle for a lot of Bitcoin users to come into the layer L2 space.
Fair point. So earlier you touched on Babylon, you touched on yield on Bitcoin, which kind of brings me to staking Bitcoin. What is the vision for staking on Bitlayer? And is it something that you already unpacking today, or is this still very much in build?
Yeah, it's a great question. So this is another topic, right? We are also in the early stage just co-building this Bitcoin DeFi future. There's a lot of things we're working on. And for Babylon, that's a very interesting approach. They use this time long, right, double signature to explore Bitcoin native yield through this locking the Bitcoin assets, right, become the kind of validator, contributing the security and features for all kinds of Cosmos SDK chains, right? So eventually the yield come from all kinds of proof of stake Cosmos SDK chains, and then that's the yield sources. Bitlayer trying to provide high level of programmability and the L2 space route, which is a bit different. And we're exploring different type of yield sources. Definitely come from one, all the on-chain transactions and the gas fee revenue, and eventually derive from Bitcoin lending and stablecoin CDPs, perp dexes, and a few other ways. So for Bitcoin liquidity providers who bridge over their Bitcoin to our Bitlayer environment, there's four types of yield sources they potentially can explore. Obviously, different yield sources, different use cases, there's certain type of different risks, right? And also different level of APY. And the first type, as I mentioned, is lending. So there's a interest rate difference. That's type of the yield we can explore for Bitcoin liquidity providers who don't want to sell their Bitcoin, but wants to lend the Bitcoin, get the USDT with low cost. And so that's the way there's a way to explore that. Second is we have a multiple Uniswap V3 type of DEXs. So liquidity provider who can be the LPs of the DEXs to tap into the APYs. Thirdly is we have two very active, high daily active user perp DEXs already deploying our chain. So for LPs provided liquidity on the perp DEXs, there's a pretty decent amount of APY on that as well. The fourth one is because of the liquid staking, right? It's a liquid staking season in 2024. We have quite a lot of liquid staking kind of programmable Bitcoin assets already minted on Bitlayer. And there's a lot of kind of yield vault or kind of on-chain liquid staking programs. We're working closely with all these liquid staking projects, including Lorenzo, Lombard, Solve, Bedrock, the list goes on. Yeah, so that's the yield sources. Yeah, these are 4 types. Obviously, we want to explore more, including stablecoin CDPs, real world assets, and a few others, but all is a work in progress.
That's really exciting. I was going to talk about like some of the liquid staking players and that are building on your platform, but I think you already touched on that. And so it does seem like a lot of this is going to be part of the roadmap as we go into 2025. Before we like talk about your roadmap, though, I want to learn more about your insights into this emerging BTC-Fi space, and more specifically, like the exploding growth of L2s. Like right now, they're like over 400 Bitcoin L2s. Like, who
Are
do
they
you
really
think?
400?
Yeah. There are sites that are tracking these launches, these chains, whether they're real L2s or side chains or vapor chains. It remains to be seen. But I really want to get your thoughts here because I want to understand who you think would be the winners and why. Because it does feel like there's a lot of thought around how we grow DeFi or solve Bitcoin for DeFi. And it does feel like there are a lot of folks who are in this L2 race to be that solution. And
Right.
so I just wanted to get your thoughts around that.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been actively building ecosystem. I see a lot of chains, L1s, L2s from all kinds of proof of stake chains and also Ethereum L2s. Some of them had a crazy rally. Some of them died out in the last kind of 8 to 9 years already. Bitcoin L2 is very young space. A lot of them haven't launched the mainnet yet. So I always say that when people say there's like hundreds of L2s, if we deep dive and just take another look, first of all, I think over half of them haven't launched the mainnet yet. So that's the first thing, right? So even let's have a broader definition of L2, including the sidechains. Even a lot of the project claim they're L2, but just a sidechain, they haven't launched their mainnet sidechain yet. So there's not too many you can use them, right? So at the end of the day, when we say there's like a lot of ecosystem, you need to actually launch the mainnet. So they already take out half of them or even more. And then for the ones that actually launch the mainnet, a lot of them actually don't have too many use cases or developers built on top of them with actual deployment or on-chain transactions. So the value of the ecosystem is the collective value of the use cases and the builders who build interesting products on the chain, right? We all know if it's a chain with no use cases, it's like a zombie chain with no users, right? So there's no value when there's nobody actually built on top of that. So if we deep dive looking at all kinds of Bitcoin L2s in the DeFi Llama, less than 20 of them have more than 10 use cases or projects. So that's already lower down to the number of 20. So, and then TVL is a very important metrics, right? We see that in the Ethereum L2 space already, right? TVL is total locked value on-chain assets. No matter it's programmable Bitcoin, which is new, or native Bitcoin or USDC or USDT kind of stable coins or other NFT stuff. Having assets on chain is very important because you have the assets, then you have the users who can trade against each other, who can do staking, who can do all kinds of activities, right? If there's no assets, it's difficult to let users to play around on your chain, right? To do all kinds of things. So TVL is still one of the basic principle metrics when we look at stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of debates about certain TVL is not necessarily useful. Certain TVL is sitting there doing nothing. Certain TVL, the people were arguing are also fake. But the fact to just have a broader definition of TVL, less than 10 Bitcoin L2s has more than 50 million. So that comes down eventually only less than 10 now. And then a chain with TVL and use cases is not enough even. Right? We have unique use cases which have clear product market fit. Right? You need to have an interesting loyal customer base, like your active community, your ambassador, and so on. And of course, it leads to even higher level. Do you actually have an interesting culture or branding around that? Because a lot of L2s are very similar, right? There's no unique branding or unique selling point or product market fit. So with that case, I would say probably less than 3 in the Bitcoin L2 space have that properly established. Bitlayer, we're trying our best to build that. We have, like, as I said, we have an all-time high. We hit 700 million TVL. We have over 260 projects deployed our chain. All-time high, we hit 250,000 transactions per day, right? 15 million transactions altogether already. And we have some interesting community, especially in the APEC region, in South Asia, people from Singapore, from Vietnam, from Hong Kong, from a few other regions like Taiwan, Korea as well. They are exploring all kinds of interesting niche communities, exploring things like the on-chain prediction market, some of the liquid staking things in the world, and some people are doing active trading competition with some of our use cases. We had a lot of fun with our Mining Gala Season 1, which is the kind of ecosystem campaign we did with 6 projects each season. Now we are in the Season 3 now. We did an amazing campaign with OKX that brought over 500,000 users to us. But even with that, we are still trying to, by doing all this, providing value, exploring all kinds of product market fit, to eventually comes down to, can we cultivate an interesting Bitcoin aligned culture, right, in our ecosystem? We have very interesting race car kind of branding, right? Our color, our logo is like this kind of McLaren F1 kind of feeling. We had a lot of fun in F1 Singapore Grand Prix. We might exploring a few more next year in like Las Vegas and other and like Grand Prix as well. So that's all kinds of things we're trying to cultivate a culture, right? People also say that you want to build a sticky, royal ecosystem, you need to actually even build a cult, right? Maybe not as crazy as like some meme coins, but like a real interesting culture. In that case, I would argue we are doing something interesting already, but obviously we are still very early. So if we look at all these parameters, humbly speaking, no L2s actually achieved that yet. So whatever hundreds, 400, 700 at Bitcoin L2, it doesn't really matter. It's just a number because it's not really hitting the threshold of a long, sustainable, successful ecosystem yet. We are very early stage. But I think at this moment, and also I'm always emphasizing that it's not just the best tech wins. It's a solid research tech and engineering team combined with proper product market fit, very strong use cases on ecosystem, eventually like a strong culture and a community, then as a whole package that can win. If you only have tech, nothing else, it's not gonna move. It's not gonna cut it. And then, not mention the ones actually don't even have the tech. They don't even launch the mainnet yet. So, yeah, that's what I'm seeing, right? The space with a lot of the project claim this and that, but if we look at traction, look at the momentum, not too many actually doing too much stuff there.
Yeah, no, those are really solid filters that you talk about. And even just looking at Bitlayer, 250,000 transactions per day on your network, that is strong product market fit. It demonstrating strong demand. And you certainly have checked that box, of course. And I also wonder, like, what with that strong demand, what challenges do you think presumably lie ahead in how you manage that number of transactions growing going forward?
Yeah, there are a couple of challenges. We are very aware of that, and we are making our preparations. One is security. The bigger our TVL gets, the more assets or more user base and also use cases we have on our chain, the bigger we are in the target in front of all those hackers, right? It's like a digital cyber dark forest. We have all kinds of hackers looking around all kinds of ways they can find vulnerabilities, right? They can get the assets, they can drain the liquidity pool, and so on and so forth. It's happening almost every month, right? We are actively building our security alliance. We're working with all the best security auditing and security teams, like from Slow Mist, Hacken, list goes on, right? We are actively working, exploring the on-chain monitoring solution with Hypernative, with Gold Plus, and so on. Security is very important. We want to make sure the on-chain assets on our ecosystem is secure, users front is secure, right? Together with many other important things. Second thing as a challenge, I think right now is still education. The space is so young. There's still a lot of mindset education needed in terms of what does it mean have all these use cases around Bitcoin and around Bitcoin assets. Certain people want to get yield with their Bitcoin holdings. Some people don't want, which is fine, but they also need to learn the user experiences, right? Use all the Web3 wallets, like the whole process, right? We need to make it simpler. We need to make it mass adoption friendly, right? So that's why we're actually exploring the collaboration with all the account extraction wallets as well, particle network, economy, and this goes on. We're trying to be very well suited in terms of data research as well. So we're going to be one of the first Bitcoin L to integrate with Nathan. We're talking to a few other data on-chain platform as well to make sure all kinds of things, on-chain activities will be visualized, will be displayed in a visual appealing way to all kinds of users and researchers and investors. So lack of education, it's another challenge. That's the second point. I would say the third point is it's just a lot of uncertainties and a lot of noise in the space, right? Like in the Web3 space right now, there's like so many narrative, so many subcategory of things, right? People looking at. Obviously, Bitcoin is the biggest asset with the biggest market cap, right? Bitcoin has been outperforming Ethereum and many other assets for a long while. We just hit, as we speak, right? We just hit all-time high today on Bitcoin, which is exciting historical day. And we believe Bitcoin going to go up even further, right? With the new election results and all the new team on the crypto regulators. We're very bullish on all these. But there's just another 50 different narratives in the Web3 space. Each of them are trying to take different type of people's time, liquidity, mindset, right? So people's attention is a very rare luxury commodity, right? It's important to get people's mind share, right? It's something which is a challenge as well, because there's a lot of other new sexy stuff coming out into the space, right? Some of them are interesting because of the way they brand themselves, like AI and DP, and the list goes on, right? And also a bunch of meme coins as well. We've been actively exploring that. But the Bitcoin DeFi, we believe, is a very solid use cases, and we try to actively cultivate and support the DApps and the builders who want to build on top of Bitlayer, and for users who hold their Bitcoin, no matter it's institutions, B2B wise, or B2C, some of retails, we want to provide the suite of Bitcoin DeFi solid products, on-chain financial products for all kinds of investors, right? To tap into yield, to put into staking and do all kinds of things, and to let their liquidity stay outside of centralized exchanges, right? To put them on chain and go into the DeFi world. So these are the three challenges we are facing. But I would say give us a bit more time, especially coming 2025. A lot of things will become more and more clear, and we will hopefully hit more momentum and more attractions moving forward.
No, we'd be looking forward to it. And I mean, as you talk about some of the things from your roadmap, like what exciting things do you have in stock for 2025?
Yeah, absolutely. 2025 is going to be very exciting. First of all, yeah, we're working on the V3 mainnet. Well, V2 is launching soon. Obviously, with that, we're going to have a couple months to properly test, and then we're going to launch the V3, which is the full scope of architecture we want to build. The layer 1 verification, the verifier, the trust minimized bridge, and the real-time virtual machine, which to enable this like high performance chain environment for all kinds of smart contract use cases. And then, of course, there's a few strategic partnerships we're working on. Franklin Templeton, one of the largest ETF firms, is our leading investor. And we are actively exploring the collaboration with their global Benji, the Benji platform. And so we want to be one of the first infrastructure to work with Benji as a money market fund. And we're exploring many other institutions on the liquidity provision side, to get the on-chain trading side, and of course, other as well. On the retail side, we're exploring all kinds of new use cases. We want to build our own ecosystem fund together with accelerator program to educate and support more builders, and that can build interesting new tooling and new products all around the world. So
on top of Bitlayer.
Yeah, on top of Bitlayer. Yeah.
Oh, so that's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. We are already working with a few accelerator like BTC Startup Lab, exploring a few others like Alliance, DeFi Alliance, and the Outlier Ventures. And obviously, more importantly, people keeps asking us in the community, when TGE, right? So we're getting towards token launch event soon. We have over 10 market makers venture arm already invested us. So we're kind of actually talking to all kinds of market makers to explore which one is our right fit, and also talking to all the listing team on the central exchanges together with DEXs to make sure we have a successful launch at the right timing. Yeah, so that's what's going to happen in 2025.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a full year. So outside of all this, yes, we're getting to our last question here on knowing what else excites you. You have spent quite a lot of time in building in crypto. So you're, even though your project right now, Bitlayer, is sort of a Bitcoin, you've done a lot of work in Polygon and you've done a lot of work in Polkadot and other ecosystem and chains. What else excites you in this space that you think is really promising?
Yeah, so Web3 space has been like this small echo chamber with other crypto bros, right? Like the OGs for a while. I've been traveling around the world when attending so many conferences and hacker house and hackathons and so on. As there's a lot of people have been travel around together. We see this familiar faces all over the world, which is cool, right? You know, it's good to see always those good builders stick around even through the bear market. Last 2 years has been tough, but we see some really resilient, true believer and true builders in the space. What I want to see this cycle upcoming, right? It's really exciting to see politicians, right? Like we have like President Donald Trump speaking about Bitcoin strategy. We see Fortune 500 companies talk about their Bitcoin strategy as well. A lot of them talk about what they want to do in upcoming 2025 in these Bitcoin Nashville conferences. What I get excited to see is a few type of new innovative use cases, right? No matter it's Web3 and AI or other ways that can be very interested to have this Bitcoin alignment. We can onboard another, we're gonna see some real multi-million daily active user kind of use cases, which I personally saw a few of them last cycle. Unfortunately, some of them didn't sustain, right? They died down quite a lot. But I'm very excited to see new type of use cases can solving some interesting problems. Yeah, that's something which can happen, right? It's always like the case. A lot of new category of products will hit interesting product market fit with like crazy rally of user adoption in every bull cycle. So I think right now we are properly kick off the bull cycle, and I think a lot of more and more retail users are shifting their attention from the stock market to the crypto as the asset side and the financial side, but more from the consumer side, right? A lot of the use cases are launching their product. There's going to be interesting amount of user acquisition on chain or online marketing kind of campaigns. We're going to see some of them going to have very successful launch. Bitlayer trying to get involved with all these projects, try to be the infrastructure provider and partner and supporter for them. And that's the part I personally have been thinking and spending most of my time every day to support those builders. That's something that gets me excited. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this has been wonderful, and we really appreciate all your insights here, Charlie. Thank you, and hope to have you on soon, especially as you continue to build in this space. I think it would be good to have another chat, talk about how far you've come and how you guys are building in this space. Thank you very much for being on today.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for all the questions. I really appreciate the time. And thank you for the listeners and for people who are interested in Bitlayer. Thank you, Benga.
Yep, most welcome. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and give us a good 5-star rating and subscribe wherever you're getting your podcasts so you can get all the latest conversations from the most interesting founders, builders, and investors from across the world. Thanks so much and have a good one.